Okay, so before we get into some strategies for working with emotion when you're completely overwhelmed, I just want to make sure that I communicate that I am not saying that emotion is bad. I mentioned this previously when we talked about acting against strategies. I don't want to give that impression to you, and I don't want that you would give that impression to your clients. Um, Emotion is not bad. Emotion is what makes life rich and beautiful at times. Um, and so we don't want to send that message to our clients. We don't want to carry that message ourselves. The fact is that everybody has a set of values, everybody has certain beliefs, everybody has certain long-term goals, and there's just a biological mechanism that gets triggered when you're overwhelmed that shuts off the rational part of your brain when you're overwhelmed with emotion and you feel somewhat trapped by the situation. It's just really difficult to think, and it's not your fault. It's like, if you have a broken leg, it's going to hurt to walk on it. Well, when your brain shuts down the rational part, you have trouble thinking. Like it's just like a broken bone. Okay, and so it's not your fault. Doesn't mean you're bad. And unlike a broken leg, which isn't optimal, there are times when people get overwhelmed and then they calm down and then they carry on. Whereas a broken bone takes time to heal. Calming down when you're triggered, 20-30 minutes is usually what it takes for someone to calm down if they're intentional about recognizing, okay, I've been triggered, I need to go calm down. All right. No emotion lasts forever. You've never had an emotion that lasted forever. So it will pass. And once it does, you'll be able to reconnect with your values and your beliefs and use all the other skills that we've talked about, and whatever else you've got up your sleeve to recenter yourself, refocus yourself on the situation, and deal effectively with it. Okay? So, and the other part of this is some people who are really emotional, they can be empathic at times, picking up on what other people are feeling and feeling that themselves in a way that can make them really effective as people helpers in whatever capacity they serve. They can also have a heightened awareness of danger. And so, these aren't necessarily bad things. Sometimes it's helpful to have somebody like that around who picks up on things in the environment that somebody else doesn't pick up on. So again, just another way in which people who tend to be prone to, kind of register a little bit higher on the emotional scale, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, can it lead you to activities, to actions that will contradict your values, that you will have to make amends for, that you might feel bad for later? Yeah, that can happen too. But same thing on the rationally minded people side. They can be insensitive or even cruel or overly direct, maybe not intentionally, but just by not picking up on what other people are thinking and feeling in their environment, they can kind of blunder into things and they have to make amends. So everybody has, their strengths and weaknesses when it comes to how emotional you are or aren't. And so, that's it. There's nothing bad about it. That's just different people wired differently. And the goal here is to be aware of yourself and figure out how do you live in a way that honors your values and beliefs. Okay? So, when you find yourself in an emotionally overwhelming situation and it's gonna cause you to cope in a way that's either not healthy or not effective, then there's some things that you can just kind of have in your back pocket, some go-to strategies that will help you get out of the situation, calm down, turn the prefrontal cortex back on, and enable you to think more effectively through the situation so you can decide what to do. All right? So there's a list of them on page 165 and 166. I'm not going to read every one, but things like leave the situation, get some work done, do something fun and active, watch a movie, cook, eat something delicious, etc. Get outside, talk to someone you trust, listen to a podcast. Now, one common thing in all of these is that you're not necessarily dwelling on the situation, and I would say don't dwell on the situation. What you want to do is take your attention off of whatever it is that's distressing you or triggering you and put it on something else. Yes, that other situation still exists. Yes, it's not resolved. That's okay. What we're determining in this moment when we're overwhelmed is, okay, I can't deal with that right now. I need to do something different. I need to shift my focus, shift my attention onto something else, and then let myself become immersed in that new activity. If my mind wants to go back to that situation, I just gently turn my attention back to whatever it is that I'm engaged in now. Okay, so, and it really doesn't matter what it is. You can pick something from this list, or you can pick something else that works for you. But ideally, it would be something that stimulates your senses, right? Something that is, direct stimulation. So like being outside, feeling the sun, walking, moving physically, looking around, noticing the things around you, taking in, deep breaths. You're stimulating all those senses because that helps shift your attention and focus. And so when you do that, what you'll notice is that, you'll have shifted your attention. So you're not thinking about the distressing situation anymore. And after a while, you'll notice that you've calmed down. Okay. And then once you have calmed down, you can use your problem solving strategies, use your relationship repair strategies, whatever it is that needs to be done to effectively deal with the situation. Okay. So my suggestion is for you, for your clients that tend to be prone to overwhelming emotion, if you know that you're somebody who, certain situations just trigger you, that's just the way you are, that's how God made you, or, maybe something difficult or painful has happened in the past, and so when you get in a situation that reminds you of that type of thing, it's just a trigger for you. So if you know that about yourself, which is, takes a fair bit of self-insight and, a willingness to reject any shame message that goes along with that tells you you're somehow bad or defective or anything because you're that way. Like, reject that, recognize, okay, I've been conditioned in some way, or I'm genetically predisposed or whatever to just be emotionally triggered when it comes to these certain types of people, places, things. And so I know for me, what helps me calm down is blah, 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 whatever, picks a couple things off the list. And then just know that about yourself. You get into that situation, boom, you need to hit the eject button, go calm down, and then you can come back and deal with it. Okay? So that is another tool, and really one of the last tools, because the next thing we're going to do is talk about missional vision in the next section. And that has more to do with long-term purpose. And I guess you could think of it as a tool, but I think of it more as kind of an overall operating strategy, or like a long-term strategic goals, vision goals that sort of put order to everything else in your life. So yes, it's a tool, but it's an all-encompassing tool, I guess you could think about it as. All right, so we are going to do some practice with the overwhelming emotions material, and so I will see you next in Life Care Exercise number 14 to give you your instructions. See you then.